Hey everyone, James Christopher here from the soon-to-be released Ballpark Nation. Check us out in May. Fanboy76, we are on Lone Star Yell Fight. I'm on From the Peanut Gallery. Essentially, I'm a really big fan of hearing myself talk, apparently. I am also, something I've been pretty open about, an Army veteran. My last duty station was with the 1st Armored Division. 13 Fox, 7 years, medically disconnected for some pretty crappy knees. So, yes, it's Veterans Day, and it's a wonderful time of reflection. And one of the things that was interesting about my service is that my wonderful wife married me when I was already a sergeant. In fact, we were dating, and they let her pin my staff sergeant rank on me, which I guess they don't usually let non-spouses do it. But she got married about halfway through, or we got married, excuse me. I mean, she did and I did, but we got married about halfway through my service. And she kind of jumped into this very interesting ecosystem of people. On the one hand, it's people from all walks of life. You've got rich people, poor people, people of color, people that were not born in the U.S. but want to be an American citizen, so that's their path. Like, it's really, you meet a microcosm of this country. One of the things my wife couldn't really understand at first was the idea that there's a rivalry between branches. We all have jokes about each other. My all-time favorite one is, how does a Marine say helicopter? Get it? Because they can't, speak. We joke about the Air Force and how they're almost the military, and the Marines will tease the Army because we ain't ready for the Marines yet. Fair. My favorite way to really get under a Marine's skin, though, is to remind them that they're part of the Navy. They hate that. They really do. It's super funny because it's true. I mean, there's no Department of the Marine Corps, right? There's no Secretary of the Marine Corps. So definitely, if you're in the service and you want to rile up your Marine friends, that's the way to do it. But it is Veterans Day, and with that, particularly this generation of veterans, there's going to be a smorgasbord of service and what those service experiences were like. Because you had a lot of Cold War veterans that, sitting like at Checkpoint Charlie and essentially staring down Russian tanks for all their career. You're still going to have a lot of Vietnam War era vets still with us, not so many World War II or Korea veterans. And as we look at the rise of anti-Semitism, it's pretty clear we're forgetting the lessons learned of World War II. But that is an episode for a different show, not even this one. You have a lot of veterans that were in tiny pop-up skirmishes that the government kind of did their best to help us ignore while they were happening. It doesn't make what they went through any less. I'm thinking about, the Mogadishu, the Battle of Mogadishu, and everything that was going on in Somalia. Some of the pop-up moments that happened in Kosovo, in Bosnia, where I was, and then obviously an entire decade of combat for veterans in both Iraq and Afghanistan. There are a lot of people that had experienced a lot of things, a lot of which were out of the norm for human existence. And as a result, a lot of us are still hurting. And I want to start this off by saying there are too many veterans that are losing their life after service. My very good friend Cedric did a movie about it. If you're hurting, there are so many resources for you. And I understand the VA is not the best one, because like when I went to go talk to the VA, every solution was group therapy. And it's like, well, let's get a bunch of guys that you are encouraging to be really tough to not talk about their feelings. So I do see a counselor on the economy, as we used to say, but reach out to somebody. My DMs are open. I'm happy to chat with anybody to even just hear them out. So, and I know several people that are willing to do that. What we are in is a brother and sisterhood that not very many people can understand. And whether your experience was, in Iraq or in Afghanistan, or whether it was in Vietnam, or whether it was, in that Cold War era, for the most part, except for some of the Vietnam War veterans, we all signed up for this, and we all were willing to sacrifice ourselves for the country, but also for the brothers and sisters next to us. And even Vietnam veterans that were drafted, maybe it wasn't their choice to go, but the level of honor and dignity that they served with, despite what Oliver Stone will tell you, and what they did to make sure that their brothers came home, and the number of them that didn't, definitely deserves all of our respect. And so if you're one of those veterans and you're watching this, thanks for watching. And also, find help if you're starting to feel some of that darkness or some of the anxiety that comes with having been in some of those high stress situations. Again, my DMs are open. I do want to do a shout out to a couple of groups of people that I think on this Veterans Day deserve some level of recognition. And that is the Army family or the military family, I should say, particularly those active duty, because you can't really understand how much of their lives are put on hold. And I've known some really incredible women that supported their spouses. We'll talk about Eric Adair in a second, but I got to do a shout out to Tammy, his wife, because just being married to that dude for 5 minutes is worth a Congressional Medal of Honor. Tammy, I hope you're watching. Jess and I love you. But even like the kids, and it's so cool that both of her children are still involved in that life. Her son went to Annapolis, is flying for the Navy. And I think it's funny that both of his siblings ended up dealing with the Navy. There's a joke there if this weren't a family show. Huh. In my own life, like I said earlier, Jessica moved into this and went from culture shock of not knowing anything about what she was married into to doing what she does and kind of just jumping in with both feet. And she ended up being the family response group sponsor for our company or our battery. Wow, I said company. It's been a long time since I've been in. For our battery. She even won the Order of St. Barb's, which is one of the highest honors that a civilian, at least in the artillery, can get. So you can't know what it's like to put your life on the line or to be a spouse putting your life on hold while your spouse is putting your life on the line, knowing that your kids are going to change high school a few times, that you can't really build a career until your husband is done or your wife is done because you're setting everything aside for that mission. So I think we don't do enough to recognize military families. Coming out, I don't have a lot of Army buddies, which I think is interesting. I don't know why that is, but the ones I do have aren't buddies; they're brothers. And I think about Eric Adair, who I served with, and honestly, it was a blast. It was a blast, even though he knew 100% how to get under my skin. Because believe it or not, I actually took my job very seriously when I was in the military. And I was I took the job of being an NCO pretty seriously as far as taking care of my soldiers and all that stuff. And I maybe was a little too stick up my butt, for lack of a better term. And so Eric was always the guy that recognized that there was a time and a place to have a little fun. And so sometimes it frustrated me because I wasn't sure I agreed on said time and said place. But really and truly was the best person I could have served with when I had that position. And we are still very much great friends today. He has been nothing but an unbelievable supporter of everything I've done since. And, again, congrats to your Rangers. And one of the things that's also while I didn't necessarily carry a lot of friends from my time in the service, meeting other people that are veterans, it immediately gives you a common ground. And, Eric's brother, Sean, I've never met in person. And yet I consider him one of my very good friends. We're on a text string. Congratulations to your Rangers. I don't know what it would have been like to grow up with Eric. You should really write a book about that. But meeting him, like it means the world that he's a friend in my life. And also my buddy Matt Dudley, who was in the Air Force, but I met him when we were both out. Getting to meet Zach Beeson, who I met through minor league baseball, and I know he and I both thought it was so cool to get to go to a game together and render a hand salute during the anthem together, because it's not an experience that you get to share with a lot of people. So, being in the military was one of the best decisions I made for my life. I think of everything I've accomplished after, and I think about the guy I was going in, and I never would have gotten any of this done if I was still that guy. And so I joined on a whim. I joined for a lot of the right reasons and maybe a couple of the wrong ones, but it still was the best decision of my life. It's not a Memorial Day episode, and I do those for Ballpark Nation, but I'm also still thinking of all the friends of mine who didn't get to come home. And that there will always be some moment of my day when that's part of the reflection. But, again, happy Veterans Day to all my brothers and sisters who put a uniform on. If you put a uniform on, if you raise your hand and said, I'm willing to die for this country, then you are my brother and you are my sister. And so, again, happy Veterans Day to you. And I have to leave things on a joke because that's how I do. So enjoy your free burger from Chili's. I know that I will be there. I don't really do the Applebee's thing, but Chili's, thanks a lot, and I'm coming for you on Saturday.